Now, in Budget 2023, the government has slashed the allocation towards its flagship rural employment scheme, the Mnrega. That's by 33% from last year's revised estimates. The finance minister defended that, saying that the scheme is demand-driven, and so the allocation will be increased if warranted. But CNBC-TV18 Santia Gora reports that Mnrega workers believe a lower allocation will lead to suppression of demand and push other existing issues with the program into a corner. Take a look.
Alka Bharat Garil lives with her family in Penkichewadi village in Maharashtra. She and her husband grow ragi and paddy on their 1 acre of land, and the harvest is only enough for their own consumption. This means that they have to find extra work to make money. For the Bharat Garils, the Mnrega scheme has been a lifeline for the past 5 to 7 years. But there are problems. In many cases, the 100 days of guaranteed work has not been forthcoming, and then there's the problem of delayed wages.
I have been working as a Mnrega worker for the last 6 to 7 years. Last year, I worked for 60 days, but I haven't received payment for even a single day.
In Budget 2023, the government has lowered the allocation towards Mnrega to 60,000 crore rupees, 33% lower than FY23's revised estimates, because many rural workers have returned to cities with the pandemic waning. Women are by far the biggest beneficiaries under the scheme, and experts worry that a lower allocation will hurt that section the most.
In a program like Nrega, where more than 50, on an average, where more than 50% of the person days are being generated by women, an assault on Nrega and an assault on the right to work through suppressed budgetary allocations is a huge assault on the women's right to work in a public program like Nirmala.
But the government argues that because demand rose last year, the revised estimate for Mnrega was hiked by 22% to 89,400 crores, and this practice of hiking allocation to meet demand will continue.
Mnrega is a demand-driven scheme. The more people come saying we want the job, we give them the work. So what is stated at the budget time estimate tends to keep adding to its resources or demands based on what comes from states. I need more. Then we add more to it and go to the parliament with a supplementary demand.
The Act guarantees, among other things, at least 100 days of employment to every rural household in a financial year, work allocation within 15 days of a written request by the household, and an unemployment allowance within 7 to 15 days of the request if work is not provided. But experts on the ground say many rural households do not apply for work in writing, either due to inability or because they are encouraged not to. So the demand picture the government is working with is skewed.
The demand that is reflected on the management information system of the Nrega database is not actually a function of the real demand. There is a huge amount of demand that's not even registered on the MISs because they just don't have adequate work and adequate funds to honor that demand through work allocation. So what we are seeing on the management information system is rationed demand already.
Some experts add that with coffers running low, many states are unable to meet their obligations under Mnrega, whether it's providing 100 days of work or paying the unemployment allowance.
Many state governments are not adequately equipped as far as the finances are concerned. This has to come from after the GST began. We have to see that the center allocates its due share to the state governments, and all state governments, by and large, I'm not saying everyone, are starved of funds. So they will try to, try to see that they can cover up that lapse by demonstrating that they have done their job.
Activists also point to workers losing days despite putting in the work, because the online attendance model introduced to streamline the scheme has its own set of problems. The government has said that instead of Mnrega, rural workers are finding employment under schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and Jal Jeevan Mission. It has also clarified that should the need arise, further allocations will be made as the year progresses. But the experts say that schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and Jal Jeevan Mission focus on individual infrastructure asset building, whereas Mnrega focuses on community infrastructure asset building, which has a prolonged benefit for more people. They also argue that these budget cuts send a message that Mnrega is not on the government's priority list. In Palghar, with camera person Vijay Anand, this is Santia for CNBC-TV18.
And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for